It's a sunny afternoon here in the beautiful city of Osogbo, and you're tuned in to your award-winning stations, Rave 91.7 FM and Western Spring Television, channel 190 DTT on Star Times. This is the much talked about on-air colloquium. So I welcome you to this on-air colloquium to commemorate Rave FM's 9 years of excellent broadcasting and Western Spring Television's 2 years of redefining broadcasting experience in Southwest Nigeria. My name is Evelyn Ohiolei.
And I am Daniel Odeyemi. In the space between what is and what could be, we'll find the promise of reforms and the will to implement. It is a realm where courage and conviction converge, and social impact, whether positive or negative, becomes the reality of the people. The topic of this colloquium is between reforms, political courage, and social impact.
Today, we'll explore the what-ifs, the how-tos, and why-nots of creating a better nation with a focus on the bold reforms embarked upon by this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We have on this program intellectuals, thought leaders, professionals of great repute who have contributed in no small measure to the development of this nation, Nigeria, in their different capacities. We have with us Ibadan High Chief and Financial Consultant who has, at a point in his life, consulted for the World Bank, Mogaji Adejumo. Welcome on board, sir.
It's good to be here in Osogbo, and I'm loving it already. Let's see how it goes.
We hope you'd stay.
Stay.
All right. Also with us in the studio is economic historian, lawyer, and lecturer par excellence, Professor Tunji Ogunyemi. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be in Osogbo.
Yes. And lastly, and in no way the least, we have with us a financial development expert and senior partner at SPM Professionals, Dr. Paul Alaje. Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's good to be here, live in your studio.
It's good to have you gentlemen with us this morning. Now, we are just going to move ahead with the questions. Let's just talk about why we are here this afternoon. And I'm going to direct my very first question this morning to Professor Tunji Ogunyemi in the studios. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made it clear from the very get-go that he would remove subsidy. And on his inauguration day, with his very first speech as the president of the nation, he made that bold declaration: subsidy is gone. And you had the whole chaos that followed after that particular statement. And the next month, June, he also made another audacious reform by floating our currency, the naira, allowing the naira to be determined by the market forces. I would like to ask you, these reforms have been criticized by experts, by analysts, by citizens, both home and abroad, because they believe the president went about it the wrong way. What do you think about this reforms?
Thank you. With due respect, I disagree absolutely that the president went with the reforms in the wrong way. He did not, because there is no better way and better time to begin to cure cancer than immediately you discover it. Immediately you discover it. In other words, when was the auspicious time for the president to have made an announcement of the removal of subsidy? It couldn't be 2 years into his term. He made the announcement the very day, in fact, the very hour I was sworn in. To me, that's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Other reforms that follow will be the harmonization of the parallel and the official exchange rate with respect to the Nigerian naira. Don't forget that the naira was being consistently subsidized with respect to the CBN pumping defense and defense species to be able to defend the naira, so that we could live on artificial exchange rates of the naira. He also took that decision. Those two decisions were not tea parties. They were not beautiful. Surely they were not reforms and policies you would say Nigerians would love. Nobody would love pain. But I tell you, the authority of the history and the realities of the Nigerian system, no development has ever come to any country in the world without pain. This same methodology was in place in the 1980s in Britain, when Margaret Thatcher took some very deft moves to remove government spending with respect to subsidies, in respect of transportation, railway, and even educational system. Look, Nigeria had been benefiting from the subsidy regime since 1972, specifically since April of that year, up to the year 2023. A time had arisen in our lives that we must, for the reason of our fiscal stability, in fact, I say liquidity, we ought to take a decision. Deft moves, painful, yes, but necessary to be able to build at least some fiscal stability in the Nigerian system. The president took the right decision.
But you know, there are people that believe that it could have been phased out instead of being outrightly removed. On the very first day he assumed office, he had no insight into the figures, the facts of governance, and just before he even entered Aso Rock, his official office, he made that decision. So you do not think phasing it out could have been a better option? By
phasing it out, I suspect you meant that he would have organized in such a way that he would do it gradually, so that the pain will come, to Nigerians, in a gradual form. I also disagree. See, a situation of paralysis needs a shock therapy to bring it to normalcy. Nobody begins to cure the diseases of a country. Look, a people who have been used to enjoying subsidy, if you go a la carte in removing the subsidy, it creates a lacuna for people using the political economy of pressures, blackmail, and others to begin to make that policy unworkable, or to even cancel it. As we speak, some Nigerians are still advocating for a reversal of the removal of the subsidy. As we speak, a reversal. Now, imagine if that had been taken at a cart. The truth about this country is that, see, what makes our economy to suffer incalculable damage is not so much as to the issue of subsidy as it is the issue of lack of productivity. How many Nigerians are productive? And I mean it absolutely, with respect to adding value. How many of us are productive? Even the economy itself. We just had the statistics yesterday, I think, by the National Bureau of Statistics, saying that the Nigerian economy grew, or the GDP grew by 3.46%. 3.46%. Yeah, 3.46%. Now, driven by what? Driven by the services, 52, and by agriculture, 28. Put the two together, 80%, in excess of 80%. Now, you would have thought that agriculture and the productive sector of it would have been more in the area of driving the economy than in the service sector. And by service sector, we mean the banking industry, we mean the insurance, at times we mean NCC, we also mean telecommunication companies, etc., etc. So it is when we begin to add more value into the system that we can begin to demand from our leaders a need to allow some level of comfort come to the country, come to the citizens. Not when you are not productive. It is not for you to begin to ask for palliatives when you yourself are not taking effects with respect to productivity. We need to solve the problem of productivity.
I could see Dr. Alaje, beaming with smiles while Professor Ogunyemi was making his submissions. Do you agree with Professor, or is there something you'd like to add?
I can never agree with such. My profession, my conscience can never make me agree with hunger, poverty, and deprivation. It's important for us to look at economic history before we make economic judgments. It is easy to say when we have advice coming from IMF and World Bank. It's important for us to note that in 1945, Germany was faced with similar decision immediately after the First World War. Germany was advised to float a currency as well as remove subsidy, which was done. But do you know that poverty and hunger, including economic deprivation, took Germany to a point where they did away with their old currency and started a new currency called Deutschmark? And economic history is there for those who are listening to us now and watching us across the globe, including the internet. Just Google what I'm telling you. 2, another country that was also faced with so much hardship and as well as subsidy removal and currency devaluation was Japan. Japan has suffered a lot of loss in the World War. Why? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This country had to follow Germany immediately because of the economic concern. I give you the third one, which is even more recent. It was Russia. Russia in 1980, early 80s, had a leader just before Vladimir Putin. The leader felt what was important was the advice coming from this same institution, which includes World Bank and IMF. First, remove subsidy. Second, float the currency. Third, increase taxes in the name of tax reform. What Nigeria is looking at now, what happened? The country suffered and they fell without pain. You cannot have economic prosperity. Says who? Which pain is America going through? Which pain are the other countries going through? People can die in pain. You can go through pain. People say at the end of the tunnel, there will be light. That is if you have light already. If you are talking, as you are talking in this studio, are we even sure that there is light? You understand? So I cannot agree with what does not agree with applied economy. There is economic theory. There is applied economics. And I take time often to ensure that information are made available to the public, first on the page of newspaper, in mass and credible media like yours, as well as my Twitter page called X. And it's important for people to read. Now, those are 3 countries. What did Vladimir Putin, what did he do? Because we need to look at people trial by success method, not trial by error.
Absolutely.
Vladimir Putin, on his first day in office, reversed subsidy removal. 2, fixed our currency against American dollar, knowing fully well that it produces resources that Europe depends on. He's in Eastern Europe. The Western Europe depends on him. Fix the currency. Thirdly, now reverse tax increase to 15% and told everybody is not in tax bracket to come into tax bracket. That was done. Look at countries that refuse to follow, to listen to voice of reason and do what Nigeria is doing currently. Number 1, I gave you 3 countries that changed. I will give you another 3 countries that did not. Look at Argentina with their peso, one of the worst currencies in the world, because Argentina refused to listen. 2, look at Zimbabwe. Had the worst currency in the world. In fact, Zimbabwe agreed to produce 1 million coins, Zimbabwe dollar. Zimbabwe dollar. Simply because they refused to. Look at Venezuela. Produce massive oil. But because of flotation of currency, among others, check Zimbabwe out. Check Venezuela out today. One of the worst economy in the world. Now, not too long ago, about 3 months ago, I won, not just Nigeria. I won another country, Ethiopia. Ethiopia said he wanted to emulate Nigeria. But you see, this question you asked us has been judged already by the same institution that advised us, IMF. Google last week, Friday report of IMF. IMF said the policy is not working, not me. IMF, the advice, I think about 2 Fridays ago. Oh, yeah. He said the policy Nigeria adopted.
2 separate reports from the IMF.
IMF, it's not working. He said because all the things we thought Nigeria would do, Nigeria is not doing. It is easy for me to say that it's productivity. How can you become productive when there is epileptic power supply? And the one that is available, people are bound, like Geisha. Band A and Band B and Band C and Band D. Now, electricity, because I'm not talking to you just as an economist, I'm also a producer. Electricity is not available. And in cases where they're available, the quality is poor. They can damage your equipment. I produce rice. And I'm talking of milling, not theories. So, if you think what the president did, there's an analogy for it. When president got to office as a doctor, he got to office as a medical doctor, and I've seen this Nigerian patient that has infection. And he's been advised, you see, Nigerian patient with infection, you need to take antibiotics. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. You need to take it for 7 days, or 10 days, let's say 10 days, so that it will be properly treated with 3 injections along the line. And Nigerian patient said, okay, no problem, well, you know what to do. Ran to one corner, took 20 tablets at the same time, swallowed it, and took 3 injections and gave herself. And you are thinking the kidney will not pack up. What is the kidney of an economy? It is easy to say that Nigeria economy grew by 4.6%. Is that really correct? In economics, is that really correct? Can you compare Nigeria with Osun State? Or can you compare Nigeria with Sokoto State? That is not be correct. You compare Nigeria with Ghana, you compare Nigeria with United Arab Emirates, and you compare Nigeria with Argentina. So when you are comparing, which currency do you use? You use the dollar. Now, when you look at our GDP 2 years ago, it was $500 billion. What is it? $1 billion. What is it today?
199.
We are now $199 billion. Are we better off or worse off? We are living in our worst days. Pre-Jonathan regime, before we rebase the economy. Yeah. Before rebasing the economy, we're larger than this. So everybody per capita income in Nigeria now is merely above $1, $1,000. What used to be $3,000?
$10,000.
So are we better off or worse off? How can subsidy removal and with flotation be better? The question you should ask is, what should we have done differently? And there are options which were made available, written and in discussion to authority. But the cheapest way is for government revenue to boost, hoping President Tinubu hoped that governors will invest in the economy. Was that done? Was that done? But for a few states that actually reinvested this back into the economy, it's important for people to know the truth. After all, your station is about as it is. Yes. We need to say the truth.
Yes, as it is.
This economy is not as strong as it should be. This economy used to be the largest in the whole Africa. Today, the last time I spoke with your correspondent, we're number 4. Today, we are now number 5. I checked, the largest economy in Southern America is Brazil. It's also the largest country in population. The largest in North America is the United States. It's also the largest population with largest economy. Then you now go to Europe and see in Eastern Europe, you see Russia as the largest economy and also the largest population. Then go to Western Europe, where you meet Germany, the largest population, largest economy. When you come to Africa, oh my dear Black Africa, Nigeria is the largest population. It's not the first, it's not the second, it's not the third, it's not the fourth, now the fifth. So how can those two policies be good? It is more than obvious that they were made out of error, they were made in mistakes, and some of us had provided alternative solution to the government. Whether we will take it or not is another kettle of fish. But we cannot say because we have a dick, look for cutlass and behead ourselves, hoping that all will be well. It's like cutting our nose to spite our face. But well, the result is obvious in the public domain. People that are watching us and are listening to us, they are themselves. Are they better off today than they were 2 years ago? They should ask themselves. When we say that at the end of the tunnel, there will be light, the father of modern economics, macroeconomics for that matter, John Maynard Keynes, he said, and I quote, he said, in the long run, we are all dead. Ask anybody, we will go through pain. When will the pain end? Can they tell you it's going to be 1 year? It's going to be 5 years? Funnily enough, World Bank seems to provide the answer. Is that what you wait for 10 to 15 years? 15 years. Can you continue like this for 10 to 15 years? And I asked in 2016, when I was interviewed by journalists, when Christine Lagarde told Nigeria that, don't worry, this economy will not go into a recession. I said, this economy will certainly go into a recession. I'm in Nigeria. I'm an economist in Nigeria. And I know for sure that this economy will go into a recession. Did you know that as against advice Christine Lagarde gave to President Buhari, Nigeria economy went to a recession? Was I happy? No. But is that the truth? That's what economy is about. So, last year, December, I made a projection that Naira will get to 1,500. Nothing looked like it. While I was waiting for March, the prediction was March. By January 31st, Naira already got to 1,900. As against 1,500. And my friends in government were a bit not happy. And I told them, you see, let us make policy that will positively impact our people. So my response will be, I cannot agree with what I am supposed to protect as an economist. My job is to bring prosperity to our people. My job as an economist is to help government generate revenue that will not impact negatively. And that's where the policy fails. In the life of the people. Are there revenue that may not impact positively, that will impact positively and not negatively in the lives of the people? The answer is yes. But are those the policy that we have implemented? The answer is no. So ask people in Ejibo, are they better off today or worse? Ask people in Ikire, are they better off today or what? Ask them in Ogoluwa, are they better off today or worse? So if they are worse, how can we say policy that make them worse is a policy we should keep supporting?
All right.
Okay, Mogaji Adejumo. It does seem like we are between the devil and the deep blue sea. Exactly. We have two different school of thought here as regards the reforms of President Bola Tinubu. However, you know, some analysts say, Mogaji, that these reforms are necessary and long overdue, that Nigeria has lived a fake life over the years, borrowing to fund subsidies on fuel, on electricity, and it's unsustainable. In as much as these reforms by the president may be termed harsh, I mean, we've listened to Professor Ogunyemi stating its own side of the facts that are presented here. Don't you think that we should applaud the president for having that, you know, boldness, that's being audacious for these reforms?
In 2011 when Jonathan said he was going to remove subsidy? He was just a governor who had just left in 2007. So he's not even going to be called a sojourner. He's not going to be called a traveler. He's not going to be called somebody new to governance. He was a governor for 8 years. He knew at that moment that there was something. He knew at that moment that Nigeria needed to save for the rainy day. But he was part of those who are shouting, no, there must be no subsidy. He went to Ojota and a few other places to campaign seriously. In fact, what did they not do to Jonathan? Not just placards, but they carried even effigies to show Jonathan as a dead person. They castigated his wife. They called out manners of names, all because they said they didn't want subsidy. Are you telling me that the realization just came to Tinubu today, or the day was sworn in, and then, oh, like he met his epiphany on the road to Eagle Square? Is that how it works? Or he knew, and all he wanted to do was play politics so that they can drive Jonathan out and they can come in by way of subterfuge. So which one do you think it is? Now can we begin to talk seriously? Who is going to be telling me that, oh, it's long overdue? Since when has it been long overdue? There was Professor Sam Aluko, who told us many years ago, wrote about it, that if they tell you devalue your money, your currency, don't do it. And Aluko went ahead to say, whoever tries to do that has committed treason.
Yeah.
And he said not just about treason, because the very first thing a government must do was to protect the lives and property of the people and safeguard them from poverty. And then you are embarking on a policy. Do you know what a policy is? I'll tell you what a policy is. A policy is not a statement you make on the day you are sworn in. A policy is a process. You go into it with all manners of seriousness. You call the experts, you debate it, you work on it. You begin to look at how that policy, if you want to call it a reform, whatever you will, is going to lead to productivity. So tell us, what was done? Where was the panel set up? Which people looked at it and said, oh, if we go into a lot of this, in 10 years, we are going to be out. So it will now take a World Bank to tell us it will take 15 years for what the World Bank crafted, or what became a flippant declaration by one person, and you want to call it a policy. Is that the way policy is done? So please, let us face facts in this country. How many people eat even twice a day? Okay, I'll tell you a story. I was in the choir for, sorry I digress, but I was in the choir for 11 years. My father was a reverend gentleman, so was my grandfather. Even though, I mean, they all read abroad and the rest of it, but they still came back to the church. So the church felt maybe I could come and talk to them. And I got to the church and they were singing a song and they were saying, no, me, I no go suffer. Me, I no go suffer. I no go beg for bread. And that was the song they were going to usher me in with. And I said, please stop. How many of you have eaten bread in 2 days? Raise up your hand. Believe me, out of what you might call about 500 people, less than 15 people raised up their hand to say they have eaten bread. The bread we took for granted when we were growing up. So I said, which one is you don't go suffer? You're already suffering. So, okay, everybody here, let's put some money together. Let's buy some bread. We were able to put about 50,000 together and say, go and buy bread. It was not even enough. Everybody wanted bread. Now I hear that every Sunday, that's what they do to give people bread. So I changed the song to Even Though I Suffer. I'm using the high tone now because now I'm in high gear. Even though I suffer, people are saying that God of miracle, what is the miracle? I was only able to get some people to help some people, and it is called palliative. If you go and check the dictionary meaning of palliative, what does it say? It is just something to alleviate the pain. It doesn't treat. It doesn't treat the root cause of the ailment. So what are we talking about in this country? He mentioned Germany, and I'm happy that he did. Before Hitler came, why did Hitler come? Hitler came because they devalued their money, 24,000 to $1.
That is why
they started with 10, it went to 100, it went to 24,000. Now, Hitler saw all of that and he capitalized on it. Who was Hitler? He was just a corporal in the army, but he had the power of oratory, and he started from the beer palace. How can you even begin to talk of a revolution that starts from the beer palace? But that was how people felt when you will have all of these Brenton Woods telling you what to do. So what did Hitler do? What did Hitler do? Of course, he reversed everything. He gave the people only one thing, the avenue to produce. And anything, like I said, which you call reform must lead to productivity. I'm yet to see anyone, including my brother Prof here, who will tell me what part of Tinubu's reform leads to productivity. They are brandishing figures. Who cannot brandish figures? I mean, look, to manufacture the figures is fine. But it will come to a time that something will tell you that what you are doing is just economic abracadabra.
Mogaji,
I'll tell you
the
why.
figures are not so real?
Oh, no, let me tell you the truth about the figures. These are economists. They know that we went to a recession twice with Buhari, not once.
Yeah.
Anything below 1.5% growth is what? It's recession.
It is.
Twice. Now you are brandishing figures. Today, inflation is 34%. If it gets to 40%, you are going to have hyperinflation. Just like he predicted, give this country one more year and let's see whether we won't go into hyperinflation. Then you can begin to throw a growth rate of 3.4 in my face. But hyperinflation will tell you where you are. How many countries have been able to get to hyperinflation and they were able to get out unscathed, unbroken, undissolved? So why are we like this? If your citizens are not going to be able to boast of one meal a day, and you are brandishing 3 points, where is the growth coming from? And you are talking about agriculture. As if we don't go to the market. As if we don't buy food stock. There is no week you go to the market that prices have not increased. So where is your productivity? Where are you going to situate it? You are still going to situate it somewhere because in your offices, air conditioned, and the figures are there. Or you are going to go into the marketplace to determine. And where is the supply chain? Let us face it, where is the supply chain? You might even get there, and it's not even about the rise in the prices of foodstuff. It is the non-availability of this foodstuff. So why are we not going to have to sit down and look at what is called these reforms and look at our own trajectory? There was a Gowon who said, I need Papa Awolowo more than I needed the Nigerian army. To do what? To manage the economy. We went through a war. How many countries can go through a war without borrowing one dime? Aren't people going to now start to interrogate how did Awolowo do it? The same Awolowo said, never, ever, ever devalue your currency. What made Awolowo to say that? He wrote all of that before Google. And then we come round to the year of the Lord 2024. Let me tell you about the year of the Lord 2024. The elections were done, concluded. We had a 3-month period for the president to do something. What he needed to do within the 3 months between February that we concluded the elections and May that he was sworn in was to have been able to put together a team. A strong economic team. Because what we had was Buhari was the lack of that. And he was the one who piggybacked Buhari into governance. Now they are talking about how long it has taken for us to understand, to realize that, oh, the economy was in some kind of doldrum. The doldrum you are talking about, when Obasanjo came in 1999, the exchange rate was 130 to 1. 16 years later, it was 197 to 1. And somebody would want to tell us that, oh, things were that bad. During that period, nurses were buying cars. Primary school teachers were buying cars. All you needed to do was to find a way to look at the lapses, productivity, and then the reassessment of how to channel the economy from that stage where all we depend upon is oil into other things. And the Obasanjo, Yaradua, and Jonathan government, they diversified heavily into gas. Now we are talking about Germany. All that Germany does in that Europe is to buffer on gas, just like Russia buffers on gas. But look at Israel. It's the only piece of real estate in the whole of the Middle East that does not have oil. The gas it gets, where does it get it from? Jordan. Yeah. The oil it gets, where does it get it from? Egypt. But what does it have? This. Human resources. Human capital development should have been the first thing that Buhari should have been able to do. But he kept on castigating Nigerians. What names did he not call us? Tinubu too came. And what has he not said? What is it that they have done to encourage the Nigerian? We have all manners of evil, from terror to what they call banditry. Our farmers do not even have that confidence to go to the farm. Our women are being waylaid. Our daughters are being raped. And somebody is trying to flaunt figures.
Okay.
We have issues, fundamental issues that will never allow for growth unless we do that, which is to add. And please, I want to just land somewhere. Unless we do that, to look at the root cause of all our problems. Until all of that is solved, there is no way we can increase productivity on the micro level before we even take it to the macro level. And where are the SMEs? Where are the small businesses? Where is the middle class? Have you seen any lately, recently? Where are the small businesses? They have folded up. The guy who used to barb my hair does not barb hair anymore because he can't afford to buy petrol, and neither can he afford to pay because they put him on a feeder that is called Band A. That is even discrimination. You want to improve the lives of the people, you started to discriminate and say some belong to Band A. Based on what? So if you happen by way of accident, and you are somebody who does not even earn more than 50,000 a month, and you are unfortunate to be put on Band A, you will even require 100,000 to pay minimum on Band A.
Mogaji Adejumo, if I may, you seem to have supported the fact that we've had years of unseriousness when it comes to governance. Don't you think that this is the time to really take
I don't
the
think this is the time
to solve the root causes that you just alluded to?
By who? They accused Jonathan of lacking the capacity to be able to manage subsidy. They now even said to the man then, these same people, this same class of people, these same characters, that whatever it is that is coming by way of excesses from the removal of the little Jonathan was able to do with subsidy should be shared. It is these same people who are clamoring for money to be shared then that are now saying that they want to manage an economy by which they want to tell us they have removed subsidy. Now, what subsidy have they removed? To tell you the truth, the only removal of subsidy that has happened lately is the one that came just about 3 months ago. If the president told us on the day of inauguration that he removed subsidy, they were paying subsidy. You called me on this radio station and I proved it to you. How much was the landing? Dangote has just started selling oil to us. They were importing oil. They are still importing oil to today. So if the landing cost is 1,000, and then you put in all other costs, and they were selling to you at 650. So the difference, who is paying? At first, they will lie and say NNPC is paying. So who owns NNPC account? So they were paying subsidy 3 times more than what Buhari was even paying. Buhari was paying 3 times more than Jonathan was paying. So it is now Igbayilaro. It is now time for them to now realize that they ought not to have opposed subsidy in 2011. And they simply want to condition us. That whatever they want to tell us now, we should take hook, line, and sinker. I want to ask you a question. And my brothers here. Okay, you have 2 wolves. Wolves. You can call them lions, but 2 wolves. I love the wolves. I don't like wolves, but I want to use wolves. Anyway, it's like one is in the darkness, and one is in the light. So you, which one is going to survive? Which one is going to live? Doctor, which one do you think will live? One wolf is chained, but in darkness. Another wolf is chained, but is in the light. Which one do you think will survive? Prof?
I think light should bring success.
That is exactly what I knew he was going to say. Because they have conditioned us to believe that the one that is in the light is the one that will survive. Sorry, sir. The answer is not the one in the light. And not even the one in the dark. It is the one you feed. It is the one you feed that will survive. Right. If you put the one in the light and there's no food, it will die. So they condition us that this is the answer. But the truth of the matter is that the answer lies somewhere else. It lies in the ingenuity of the Nigerian to know exactly what he wants. How did Awolowo manage that economy? Are you saying we can't find people who can do it? If Aluko told us that it is even treasonable for anyone to devalue an naira, why wouldn't somebody interrogate Aluko's brain? He was a professor of economics. The last thing I'm going to say to you, unless you still want to give me time, because you always say Mogaji will talk so much. The last thing I will say to you is this. The total debt of portfolio of America is how much? $23 trillion. That's what America is owing. Has America even paid $1 ever on debt? Who knows when America has even paid $1? China is owing $13 trillion. Can America tell China to come and pay? America is busy trying to beg China about trade imbalances, let alone to tell China, go and pay. It is us, they will tell us to pay, and we'll be using 90% of our revenue to pay debt.
Thank you, Mogaji.
So the truth of the matter is that they will push us until they die to help the economy. They want us to pay, but they will never pay the debt. Themselves, they will never. China will never pay that 13 trillion. In fact, it will increase. America's 23 trillion too will increase. All right. So if we know what is good for us, then we will reverse everything, go back to the basics, rebase the economy, change the naira, float it at maybe 2 to 1. If not, you don't want to do it 1 to 1, and start afresh.
All right, Mogaji. That was profound. Let's move over to Professor. I can see you have a lot bottled up inside of you when this gentlemen were speaking. Would you like to react to some of the things Dr. Alaje and Mogaji Adejumo have spoken about?
Thank you. Back and forth may not be necessary, but let me just say, because of the histrionics, when it comes to the issue of the value of the Nigerian naira, the devaluation did not begin today. Okay. 1982, Shagari ensured that a bill was sent to the National Assembly on economic stabilization. He introduced the austerity measure, 1982, just 1 year before it was overthrown, December 31, 1983. And that austerity measure was not a tea party. Nigerians queued for what was called essential commodities, milk, sugar, detergent, toilet soap, toilet. People queued.
So we didn't just start today. It happened. We did that.
So the problems that had been with us actually began in 1982. Now, some pack of military people came and then they overthrew the government in the midnight of December 31, led by one man called General Muhammadu Buhari, Major General. He was in Nigeria in the saddle as head of state of Nigeria for 22 months. During that time, Nigeria never had it. In fact, our creditors refused to offer unto us credit lines. Onolapo Shuleye, his finance minister, had to embark upon a policy of counter-trading so that we could at least be able to import the basic necessities all of 1984 up to 1985. This same country. Where was our naira? And when General Babangida came in July, August of 1985, that same year that Buhari was overthrown, just 1 year after, introduced SAP, Structural Adjustment Program. We have never gotten out of that and the implications thereof today. Second-tier foreign exchange market started during that time. Nigerian naira devalued. In fact, if we insisted that we were not going to devalue naira, the fact that is the real politic in the market, the real fact in the market, actually devalued the naira. 4 naira to $1. Don't forget, we were coming from 60 kobo to the dollar. In 1986, SAP was a woeful failure. By 1989, yes, he called himself president, Babangida declared that all economic policies and all input into governance had failed, and that he wondered why the Nigerian economy had not yet collapsed. The president of the Federal Republic said that. So, in my parlance here in Yoruba land, we said, apology to Chief. Children are not supposed to make allergies where elders are. But the truth of the matter is that it's been quite a while. And the devaluation continued even under military rule that had the capacity to decree that Nigerian naira be 1 naira to the dollar. Nobody does it anywhere in the world. You won't achieve it. You fail.
Sorry, Prof. What happened under Abacha?
Under Abacha. 21 to 1.
What happened under Abacha?
It was 21.
21 to 1.
And we will agree with me that 21 was a tough talk compared to 4 naira.
That was when we had the most stable.
But then, yes.
And we had a Sam Aluko who ran it,
okay.
A man who was
Aluko
against
ran it
devaluation successfully.
But it did not reduce the exchange rate.
It's not about the exchange rate.
It stabilized.
It's about the period of growth and stability of the economy as at the time he met it.
Yeah.
It never went up.
Oh,
now
yeah,
we have had a serious devaluation from 460 to the dollar now to 1,760.
760.
How
do we begin to
calculate the difference in percentage with respect to Obasanjo left off with about 80, and then Jonathan managed us in between 160 and 180 naira to the dollar. Jonathan.
So
that was
between Jonathan, how many
and
percent
now,
is that?
And now,
almost 1,000%.
And now, if you compare, 1,000%. But of course, when you begin to calculate, you take away 80, and then you calculate 160, 180. That will be in the neighborhood of something serious. At least more than double, as at the time that we had Jonathan. And we Nigeria had it. And Buhari came. Of course, all of us know, every Nigerian know, that Buhari was not a person you would choose. It would not be the first choice when it comes to economic skill and capacity to manage anything. He didn't do it well in 1984-85. So, but the Nigerian political economy foisted him upon us because did not just had to have a president. I think the problem we have in the country is the political economy of the structure of the country. A system that does not compensate hard work, but sanctions it. But if we had gone on a political restructuring, and we are taking the advice of the political confab that we had during President Jonathan's era, perchance we could have succeeded. But the way we are constituted now, including the structure of our government, the cost of our governance, which exceeds 70% of our total budget, there is no way we can move ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. The figures are flying all around, and that's what you get when you have economists, and financial experts sitting with you in the studios. We go for this break. When we come back, we deepen the conversation on this colloquium. We are beaming live on Western Spring Television Channel 190 DTT on Start Times and on Rave 91.7 FM. You can also watch us on YouTube at Western Spring TV. We'll go for this break now. We'll come back soon.